up, people? How you doing? It's Tasha Diamonds here, two-time Olympian and Olympic bronze medalist, and you are watching or listening to another episode of Global Sports Channel Sports Personality Spotlight. And boy, do I have a personality on for you today. Oh my gosh, I can't even, I'd be here doing the introduction for 10 minutes if I really told you everything that this chica does. So I'm just going to bring her on. She was an elite athlete in her heyday, but she's done so much more since then. Welcome, Donna Fraser. How are you?
I'm good.
You know what? I love you, but you get on my nerves because every time I see you, you look 12 years old.
Stop! It's this hairdo at the moment. I'm struggling. I've had to go back to my youth.
Seriously, where's the fountain of youth? Your skin always looks amazing. Your face, you always look so young. What are you drinking? What are you eating?
Everything at the moment. You're not seeing my bottom half. That's what it is. You're not seeing that. This is just a vision.
Right, the social media trick. So,
yes.
So, obviously I know where you're from, but tell everyone where you're from. Where's the accent from? Where'd you grow up?
Oh my gosh. So anyone who knows the UK, I'm from South London, but I don't quite speak like a South Londoner. Grew up in Croydon. I now live Crystal Palace, which is very close to the athletics track. I moved here for obvious reasons. So I'm from the UK, so I'm a Londoner.
Nice. And so tell us about your growing up in London. Like, was sports always a thing in your family? Were you like the first to do the stuff that you do? Like, tell us about your journey getting into track and field and what that was like in terms of your whole family unit.
Yeah, definitely sporting background. I was always surrounded by sport, from cricket to horse racing to, well, not so much football actually, to be honest, but athletics was definitely on the TV, which is what inspired me back in 84 watching the Olympic Games in LA. It's definitely been ingrained in me from a very young age.
Now, how did you end up getting into track and field in particular? Was that, being around so much sports and having being so much interest in sports in your family? Why track and field?
That's a very good question. I guess athletics back then was very much a hobby. And when I was introduced to athletics, even before I was inspired to want to be an Olympian, I was watching athletics, watching my sister run, and she had spikes, and I was just intrigued. What is this all about? So when I was at my primary school, I could definitely run quite quickly, probably running away from my parents from the licks, as they say. But yeah, running was my thing. I was extremely shy as a youngster, so doing sport just brought me out of my shell. And I guess the rest is history. I was picked up by Croydon Harriers, which you were also a Croydon Harrier, and joined the club. And I was just in my element when I went down there on a cold week night, which many of us will remember those cold nights at Croydon Arena. But yeah, I loved it. It's a sport that I love watching. There's so many disciplines that are in the sport, and you get to travel the world. What more do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talk about being shy, and I always considered you, like, of all the athletes out there, one of the more mild-mannered athletes. But then you get on the track and this beast comes out. Like, where does that come from? Like, that competitive spirit?
I from a very young age, so I'm told, I don't remember. I was very determined as a child, very focused, and what Donna wanted to do, Donna did. Not in a naughty way, but yeah, I was very adamant that that's what I want to do. Just let me do it. So yeah, there were different sides to me. Yeah, off the track, very quite mild, as you say. But on the track, we mean business, and you're the same, Tasha. I know you're a bit more extravagant than me. I know that, but
Just
absolutely, just a tad. We've had our laughs in our time, haven't we? But yeah, when you're on the track, you're a completely different person, and we all say that athletes wear masks, and I probably definitely did wear a mask.
Yeah. You specialized in the 400 meters, but did you try other events before that happened? And how did that happen that you ended up focusing on that?
It wasn't a choice, believe me. If I could have stayed with the 100 and 200, I definitely would have. It's just painful. I wasn't really progressing as well as I'd wanted to over the 200. I'd almost plateaued.
Right.
And, you know, I can't remember who it was actually, said, "Oh, why don't you try the 400?" And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to start here and finish here, really, the whole lap and be in one piece at the end. But me being me, I just gave it a go, and yeah, it was my event. If I'm completely honest, the way I ran, my style, my technique was definitely fitting for the 400. But of course, you know, that comes with work. I had to put the work into it, and as you know, it's not an easy distance.
Absolutely. Now, I think about your career, and I gotta be honest with you, like I feel like you were running from the early 1900s until the early 2000s. I mean, I just feel like you were in the sport for such a long time. And for me, that's amazing. I'm in awe of it, because what people don't understand, it's not just about winning things, it's about being able to do, like, not just having the talent, but being able to keep your body in one piece for that period of time. And, you know, you were able to do that and, you know, perform at the highest level and get medals and all that for such a long time. How do you think you managed to have such longevity, something that many athletes wish to do but don't?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. One is the focus. You know, I set the goal to be an Olympian and excel and get a medal at the Olympic Games at a young age.
Right.
And every barrier that was put in front of me, I chose to knock them down and keep going. And that's probably where I got my nickname, the Grandma of Athletics, because I refused to give up. Not that I had grey hairs at the time, but anyway. And then the support network, the other side of that, you know, I did have injuries, and you know, many athletes are hampered by injuries, and we call them niggles, because you literally just put a little bit of DP or bandage and you get on and you keep going. But there did come a point where my body did break down. I had to go back to the drawing board, and I came back again because I'd set that goal many years before, that I just had to keep going until I'd achieved my goal. Right. But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. You know the score. There's not one day an athlete gets up and everything feels fine. You just live with it. It's part and parcel of the event and the sport in general. But I loved the sport, and I just didn't feel I was done yet. I had more to give. If my body was intact and everything was fine, I was just hoping for that moment that moment would come, and it didn't, unfortunately. But I gave it my best shot.
Right. Well, you did do amazing things. You got medals in the European indoors. You got medals in the Commonwealth Games. You've got medals at World Championships. Do you think there's a difference between the way someone who becomes a medalist approaches the sport and other people, or is it just genetics, hard work, bit of luck? What do you think you could attribute that to?
It's a combination, I think. Absolutely. You know, talent can only take you so far. Right. There comes a point where you have to put the work in. And yeah, I can probably pinpoint when that moment was. But it's realization. We've got to be realistic about what we want to achieve and what our bodies can achieve as well. But yes, I've got all those medals, and I didn't really think about the medals, if that makes sense. I just wanted to win. And then the other things will follow, and the personal best will follow, hopefully. But it's absolutely a combination. And sometimes it's the luck of the draw. You know, I didn't have much luck, I can say that. I was always drawn in lane 7 and 8. That's not much luck at all. But hey ho, it's just the luck of the draw. It's whatever cards you're dealt, and you just have to, work with it.
One of the great things about you is that you were always at the talent level and the fitness level to be a part of Britain's 4x4 team. And I'd love to hear you talk about, because you've been on so many different teams, what is that like, the early days of being on the 4x4, and then the more experienced years of being on the 4x4. Maybe now you're more of a team leader than you are sort of like feeling yourself out. Yeah. What's it like being a part of a team? Because a lot of people see track and field as an individual sport, but once you put that GBR on your shirt, it's a different story, and especially in a relay where there's a lot of pressure for you to perform for the team?
Absolutely. I think the relay is what teamwork is. A lot of, including yourself, I would have been racing against many of my teammates in the relay days before. So you park that and then you come together as a team. And I'd always call the girls my sisters, that it is a sisterhood because you have to work together. There is no weak link. There is no stronger link. You just work together as a team and run as fast as you possibly can and hopefully come out with a medal at the end of it. But yeah, in terms of me being part of teams over that length of time, from my very first competition, Commonwealth Games 94, was a completely different experience to the later years, simply because I didn't feel part of the team in 94. It was, I did feel quite lonely, my first senior championships, and I didn't feel part of the team. But it was then that I said to myself, if ever I do become part of a team again, I will make sure the newbie feels part of the team. And that was definitely my focus throughout, especially when I became team captain and so forth, as I got a lot older and the most experienced part of the team. So it's important to make sure that everyone in that relay, whether you're in the top 4 or part of the squad and maybe not making or having the opportunity to compete, it's important that everyone feels part of that team.
Absolutely. And you've had a lot of experience now as a speaker in corporate situations and businesses. How do you think what you've learned in sports, what you've learned about being part of a relay, being part of a team, how do you think it relates to business?
Oh, I always say sport, all the skills that I myself and many others have developed within sport are absolutely transitional into the world of work and in business. We as athletes do it day in, day out, and those soft skills, as they call them, come natural to us. The determination, the time management, the hard work, all that work ethic just comes natural to us because we do it day and day out. When you're in the world of work, it's exactly the same thing. You have to set goals, you have targets, you have time scales that you have to abide by, deadlines and so forth. So absolutely, athletes going into the world of work can absolutely manage, but of course there are other things that they'll need to look at. But those skills that some people struggle with who are in business and haven't come from sport would struggle with, but we're usually okay with it, but we don't realize it, we don't tap into it at all.
How do you think then, because a lot of athletes, they don't recognize where those skills are or what those skills are. How do you think is the best way for an athlete, say maybe transitioning out of sports, maybe they've been injured, maybe they're ready, it's time for retirement, to now take those skills and use them outside of sports? Like where do they have to recognize, okay, I can use this here, or how can they make that transition smoother, given that a lot of them don't have this, 10-page long resume or CV to go into the workforce?
No, definitely. And this is why I'm a huge advocate of athletes when they're in the sport is to have something else to fall back on.
Right.
You never know what's around the corner. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. And God forbid, injury could happen, or you could drop off a curb and you're out for a year or whatever it may take. Yeah. And that just throws you off. So I always say have something on the back burner. It's so important to have that. I made the decision to work alongside my athletics career, but that was my choice. I didn't have to. But coming from parents who were from the West Indies, they were like, you need to get a job. You need to fix up. Athletics is not going to pay the bill. So I had that mentality throughout. And then when my transition wasn't too difficult, but it's identifying those skills early. And I know within the UK, we do have those performance lifestyle leads who will support athletes through that. But in all fairness, some of the athletes are not really focusing after, what happens after athletics or after sport. But it's important that they do. So, it's not too much of a, deep breath, what do I do next? So you're almost planning in advance, but not taking your eye off the ball and the end goal of getting to Olympics or whatever that end goal is. It's just having that plan B and C just in case.
Absolutely. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about, recently we've seen a lot of athletes being awarded medals that they really should have gotten 10, 8 years prior, but because
Yeah,
of
I'm waiting for
performance,
mine.
hello, exactly, yourself included, because athletes have taken performance enhancing drugs, they've won medals, and now those have been stripped, which has meant those people who are clean have been elevated and now are receiving those medals. And from the outside, it's fantastic. Oh my gosh, they've got a medal and it looks great. They've finally gotten what they deserve. But talk about what has really happened in terms of the opportunities that athletes would have had at the time had they gotten those medals, because it's a lot more damaging than it seems, because eventually they got it, but there's so much that was missed because of that. Talk about how it affects an athlete's career not receiving the medal they should have at the time when it was achieved.
Definitely. Well, we all know that saying, better late than never, but it has a huge impact on the athlete. If you can think about it, if they were to get the medal when they should have, all those endorsements, sponsorships, opportunities, all those doors would have opened for them. And that won't happen now because the time has passed. So missing that opportunity can be quite damaging, and even though they've got the medal, it's great, but it does not feel the same. Not that I've been in that position, but I can only imagine how some of these athletes are feeling. It's almost that bittersweet feeling that, well, okay, fine, I've got my medal, it's great, it's in a box or wherever it may be, but having that experience of stepping onto that rostrum, hearing the national anthem if it was a gold medal, and just seeing your flag going up, that whole experience that many athletes will dream about day in, day out, and having that robbed basically of that time is just devastating. So it is absolutely a bittersweet feeling. But if you think about the monetary side of things, those endorsements and the sponsors that would have come flooding in after that, yeah, they've missed the boat, which is such a shame.
Absolutely. We were both around in 2000 when Marion, for example, was on this, I'm going to do every event on planet Earth, and everyone's raising an eyebrow, which later made sense because obviously she got found out to be doing performance enhancing drugs. But, you've probably lined up, I probably lined up against people who have taken drugs, and maybe at the time we felt, that's a bit suspect. What's it like then to years later find out the truth and know that we can't go back? Do you feel a sense of betrayal? I mean, you probably smiled with these people, shook hands with these people, hugged these people after races. Is it challenging, or you just sort of focus on your own path?
That is such a great question. I think I see down the line, as you said, you think, oh well, you had your suspicions. We all do, but you can't prove anything. You just have to get on and run as best as you possibly can. But it is very, very frustrating. And, now I don't think it's ever going to stop, to be honest. It's going to go on for many years, and it has gone on for years before our time. But yeah, I think if we just focused on them, we would not step foot on the track. We wouldn't compete if we allowed them to take over, because you never know, they could be having a bad day and you've got that opportunity to win. So you can't go into a race thinking, oh, well, that person's a bit dodgy, or I'm not too sure, how they run. Only last year now they're running 5 seconds quicker than they did the year before. You can't think like that. It is, it's there, there's conversations that are had, but you can't accuse or make those accusations without any evidence. So you can't let that hold you back and just, give it your all, really.
Absolutely. Now, you've had so many memorable moments in track. You've competed with all of the biggest names. I mean, not just in the UK, but, Kathy Freeman, you've been in all of those environments. What's your most memorable moment in track and field?
Oh my gosh, that is, how long have you got? I've got so many.
As long as
there's so many. I mean, top three. Well, obviously Sydney definitely is in no particular order, but I think that has to be number one. It was an experience that I look back now and appreciate it more than when I was in it. When you're in it, I was just in my own little bubble. But it's not even so much competition memories. It's more so what happened off the track, you know, the laughs that we've had in our rooms, and, you know, in the village, in the Olympics, and, you know, the parties, all that kind of stuff, and the friends that you make. It's all that I remember the most. But yeah, Sydney was definitely, for many reasons, not only because of my performance, although I was devastated coming fourth, but also the whole experience. Sydney and the Australians really put on a games. It was fantastic. But some other competitions, Commonwealth Games in '98 was a great experience, going from one relay, getting the medal from that straight onto the track to run another, you know, coming together as a team again. Yeah, there's a long list for many, many different reasons, to even remembering my first 400-meter race. So for different reasons that are great memories. I should really write a book, to be honest.
Hello. Now
you'd be in it, Tasha.
Of course I got to be in it.
Yeah, to even when we were pulling the tail of the mascot in at the European Champs, all of that kind of stuff. We just enjoyed ourselves, and that's definitely something that I miss.
That's fantastic. You know, it's so funny because my memory is terrible. I don't remember a lot of stuff, right? Like literally, even you saying pulling the tail of the mascot. I did that. Oh my God. But one thing I will never forget is your face when I tripped over my own tights and ripped the leg off right before the relay at the Olympic Games. Like literally we're on the track. And your face is just etched in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I'm one of the younger ones. Here's a senior athlete looking at me like, what are you on?
Oh, I wasn't going to say that was my top memory, but it's there. It's definitely in the top 10 because it was priceless. It was absolutely, and that's the thing, you know, we were laughing. Of course, we were serious, but
yeah,
it broke the ice. It almost kills the nerves, which not saying that, you know, obviously it was, you know, it was on you, but we weren't laughing at you. We were laughing at the situation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My memory, that is just stuck right there. So I appreciate that.
Priceless.
Now, retirement. Was your retirement strategic? You know, you've so many years in the sport. Like I said, I honestly feel like you were there from the 1900s to early 2000s. But, you know, at some point, it's time to wrap it up. It's time to hang up the spikes. Was that a strategic thing, or did it come suddenly before you expected? And how did that whole process work out for you?
No, definitely. It was not planned. The same year I retired, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009. So you could say I was forced to retire. It was a difficult decision because I was looking forward to at least trying to get to the London 2012 Games and hang on till then. But that whole journey of the breast cancer, I didn't know. But it was a bit of an eye-opener for me because I thought, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Life is too short. I need to really take stock of where I'm going and just enjoy life. So that was almost like a decision was made for me.
Right. Now, was it, you know, finding out that you were diagnosed with cancer, was that a complete shock, or was there a history of it in your family? What was that experience like? I can't even imagine.
No, way off the scale. You know, we talk about, wow, where did that curveball come from? It certainly was a curveball. No family history, you know, we're fit. How can this possibly happen to me? So I was devastated, obviously. I didn't see it coming. But I was lucky, or fortunate, should I say, that I caught it early, so it was treatable. But of course, it was in the midst of the season. So I had my lumpectomy and was back 2 weeks later training and competing in agony, might I add. But then the back end of that year, after I retired, I decided to have a mastectomy. But at that point, no one knew that that was the reason why I'd retired. I just said, yeah, you know, I'm just hanging up my spikes. But hence why I came out of retirement a couple of years later to try and get to the 2012. But I knew that would have been a hard task because being out of the sport for so long, plus recovering, and once you miss so much training, it's tough. But I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was doing it purely from an inspirational perspective, and leave the sport on my terms more so than anything else.
I love that. Now, you talked about having a lumpectomy and then literally, like most people would be out for a hamstring longer than that, and you're back. Are there some parts of being an athlete that are both a pro and a con in situations like that? Because you may think you can do everything when really you should be chilling out, or maybe sometimes it's good because you put more effort into things. How does your life and your attitude as an athlete, how did that play into, either for the good or the bad, into your whole process of working through this diagnosis?
Yeah, definitely. There absolutely are pros and cons to having that athlete mentality. Let me start with the negative side of things. We just keep going. We sometimes don't listen to our bodies. We still have that goal in sight and just will keep plowing through. And sometimes that does more damage than good. And I've definitely been one of those individuals where my Achilles is just on fire. And I'm like, no, just put a little bit of deep heat, some freeze spray, and I'm back out there. But I'm just doing more damage to the Achilles. So yeah, we definitely sometimes do not listen to our bodies, and it's screaming out, tell us to slow down, and we don't do it. The positive side of it, especially through this breast cancer journey that I went through, was definitely, this is not going to stop me. I have to get through this. Unfortunately, some women do not, and their prognosis later on, it's incurable. But for me, I had a chance, and I wanted to use that opportunity just to live life the best I could and give back as well, and share my story that other women who may be going through it, or just being body aware and check themselves and raise that awareness, was just really important to me. So definitely, without a doubt, my mindset got me through it. Come on, Donna, get up every morning, do what you need to do all the rehab exercises and so forth. But also the fitness side of it. My care nurse said to me, the fact that I'd done athletics, that my recovery would be a lot quicker because my body can adjust fairly quick. So that also has its positives. So fitness, not necessarily you have to be an Olympian, but just general fitness, just keep the body moving and active, really does help if, God forbid, you have to go in for surgery, because it does help for the rehab for sure.
Amazing. And like you said, you did choose to have a mastectomy, or maybe that was a decision your doctor said needed to happen. But how did you manage that physically, mentally, emotionally? This is not just, hey, I stubbed my toe, or I need to have a nail removed. For a woman, breast can be a really big deal, and having to take that away, that's not an easy decision, nor is it easy to deal with after the fact. How did you manage that physically, mentally, emotionally?
It was definitely not an easy decision, because I didn't know. And my care nurse would say to me, do not Google, don't look, because every woman's body is different and everyone's surgery is different as well. So don't look. And I did actually listen to her for a change. I didn't look. I thought, well, I've just got to put trust in my surgeon and do what's right. But yeah, that decision was not an easy one. I wasn't sure. I didn't know whether to go for it or go for the radiotherapy, which is what I was also offered. But again, Tasha, it was almost that I reverted to that athlete mentality. Well, I've gone through injuries, and you go through that process with surgery being the last resort. And I thought, oh, gosh, that pain of, if, buts, maybe, and is it, going to be okay? So I thought, you know what, let me just cut to the chase and go for the mastectomy, get rid of the bad bit of Donna, and just start afresh. And as I said, I caught the cancer early, so it hadn't spread, luckily. So yeah, it's a huge thing, as you say, for a woman who pride themselves on their curves and parts of their body. And I just thought, well, people, if I'm walking down the road, people won't know unless I said to them, oh, I've got a false boob. I'm still, I'm still me. And that's why I had to keep telling myself, I'm still Donna. I still speak the same. I still look the same. But, who's going to see me naked? To be honest, that sounds quite crude. But do you know what I mean? I really had to put things into perspective. But I must say, after the surgery, I was so conscious. My cousin got married in the January after my surgery in the December of 2009. So she got married in 2010 January, and I was helping with the organisation. And we stayed in a spa after the wedding, and I was petrified of putting on a bikini to go down into the spa. And I was like, what is wrong with me? This is just so not like me. Usually I'm quite confident. I'll do whatever. If people have to stare, they stare. But I was just paranoid that people would notice. And it was my sister who said, Donna, it's fine. You're just making a mountain out of the molehill, and just do it. And I took a deep breath, put on the bikini, and I just went. I was like, if people ask, then I'll just explain. And in all honesty, that was my part of my rehab, just explaining what the portal was, what I'd gone through, and, what my bandages were, all of that. So it helped, in the long term, it definitely did help part of my rehab, but that was definitely a tough time.
You said that normally you wouldn't care, like if people looked and whatever, but in this instance, for some reason, it did matter. Looking back now, do you know why it affected you differently this time, like caring about what the outside world thought?
It was definitely different. I think, growing up, everyone would tease me about the gap in my teeth, and my family and friends would just smile. It doesn't, your gap does not impact anyone. So just be proud of who you are and stand tall. Yes, I was taller than all my friends at school. I had longer legs. Some of my trousers didn't fit me, all of that kind of stuff. But I overcame that because I was always told, Donna, just be you, don't let what people say or think impact how you feel. But for some reason, as you say, that woman imagery, a part of me was taken away, that I can't change that, but I had to really embrace it and embrace me. And as I've said, I just thought, I'm still me at the end of the day. It just does not matter. I'm alive, and I've got to look at the bigger picture.
Amen to that. Now, you didn't really tell anyone at the time, the athletics world didn't know, only your coach and close family really knew about it. Was there a reason why you felt it was important to keep that close to home at the time?
Yeah, it was because I did not want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't want to be wrapped in cotton wool. Oh, Donna, no. That was not going to help me move forward. Right. And AO, my coach, he was just hardcore. When I found the lump, he said to me, oh, maybe, Donna, you swallowed a boiled sweet or something, and that's what the lump is.
So AO.
Great, yeah, so AO. But that's the kind of thing I needed, just to quite refreshing in a weird way, and that's similar to how I approached it. I mean, even the care nurse had to pull my sister to one side on one of my appointments and says, is Donna okay? Because she's just smiling and she's taking it all in. That's how Donna deals with things. But yeah, I chose not to tell anyone else because of that fact. I just wanted to get on with it. But I did break my story when I came out of retirement, because I was getting so many questions. Why do you come out of retirement? Are you crazy? Why do you want to come back to 400? And I was like, this is getting tedious now. I'm going to have to say, what's what. So I was quite strategic in who I told. And a good friend of mine who worked at the time for the Daily Express, I said, I trust you. I trust that you will tell the story as is. And he did that. And that story came out on the day of the trials for 2012. And I was in tears on the line because I've got a standing ovation, because people knew then what had happened and why I was there. So I was no longer, Donna the veteran. It was Donna Fraser's kind of back. So that was kind of nice not to be the veteran.
Right. The veteran who doesn't know when to quit. Like
exactly, the grandma.
Absolutely. So speaking of, you've done you're doing a lot of work in awareness now, and I want to talk more about that. But how did you become aware, and what advice do you have now for other women to sort of be on top of this situation? Because like you said, you were lucky that you found it earlier. Some people aren't lucky because maybe they're not doing the things that maybe you were doing. What were you doing that it became known to you that this was something that you needed to get checked, and then the whole process?
Yeah, I think, again, thanks to my athletics and sport, we naturally are body aware. We know if that there's a niggle there, something doesn't feel quite right. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But at the same time, every individual knows their body better than anybody else. So you don't necessarily have to be from sport to know your own body. And if something doesn't feel right, go and get it checked out. Don't sit on it and think, oh, it'll be fine, it'll go away. No, because time is of essence, and the longer you leave it, the worse it potentially could be. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And I know there's fear. It's fear of the unknown, but I just really do encourage women and men, because men can also get breast cancer and any other cancer, in fact. So it's just important to just go and get it checked out, so you know. And if it's early enough, then interventions and treatment can be put in place. The longer you leave it, if it is cancerous, then the treatment will be more vigorous.
Absolutely, I agree with you 1000%, because I understand the fear, and I understand, like, a lot of people will say, well, I don't like going to doctors. I'm like, listen, you're going to be seeing way more doctors if you wait till later. Best you just see the doctor a couple of times now than a million times in 2-3 years. So
definitely.
Absolutely agree with that advice. So what, since you're, talk about the recovery process, and you've been involved in a lot of breast cancer awareness projects and events now. Talk about some of those things and what you've been doing since.
Yeah, so during my recovery, as it were, where I was just kind of feeling a bit sorry for myself because I couldn't do what I wanted to do. It was very painful having to lift my arm. And in fact, the rehab that they gave me to do, I pretty much ripped that up and said, I'm going to do my own thing. And which is not good. That's not the advice I would give. But I was like, I can move my arm a lot further than it's telling me I should. So I was pushing the boundaries there.
The athlete was back.
Yeah, the athlete was back. So that's why everyone knew Donna's recovering pretty well. But yeah, it was that time that I thought I need to give something back. I didn't know what that was. So I got connected with Breakthrough Breast Cancer, which is now Breast Cancer Now. And there are many charities that look at breast cancer and the research and so forth. But Breakthrough Breast Cancer seemed more like, as we spoke about earlier, a relay team. They were like a family, and I just really, really connected with their ethos, what they were trying to do around the research. So I got involved with them, telling my story. And of course, within the Black community, and we don't talk about it openly. It's very much kept behind closed doors or swept under the carpet. And I thought, well, if I can tell my story as a fit person that I was, with no family history from an ethnic background, then I should be telling my story that cancer does not discriminate, not just breast cancer, but any cancer. It does not discriminate. So if I can inspire one person every time I speak or get involved with the campaigns that I do to go and get themselves checked out, then I've achieved something. But for me, that was really important. But there's so many campaigns I've been involved in. I've even got down to my bra and knickers with Marks and Spencer's, which was really weird. I know, which was really strange, because considering we stripped off down to hardly anything to run in front of thousands of people, and that made me nervous to do that. It's bizarre. So yeah, that was good fun. But with that campaign in itself, I met other women who had gone through different stages of breast cancer. I honestly felt like a bit like a fraud, because I caught mine early, but some others were at different stages. Some had gone through chemo, and it was just, it was really heartfelt, and I made some really great friends through that particular campaign, and we're still friends now. We're called the Magnificent Seven, just because of the personalities and the stories. But, you know, I'm truly humbled because what some of these women go through, it's horrendous. The treatment can be really, really tough.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you're a keynote speaker. Do you speak on breast cancer awareness, and what other topics do you speak on as a keynote?
I speak about all sorts because I think, as you say, I've been around for a long time with different experiences, from, you know, transition, which we've covered, to breast cancer, that resilience, inspiration, the world of business that I'm in now. I speak about everything, but it is all authentic because it's based on my personal experience. It's not something that I've read up on. This is my story, and if I can help in any way, I'm willing to do that. So I do a number of subjects. Obviously, it does depend on what businesses want, but there's usually a story that I can tell around their subject that they want to cover.
And you said you're in business now. What business, what field are you in now? Because I've seen you doing also, I've seen you coaching people, I've seen you speaking. I mean, you do a lot of stuff. So in terms of business, what are you up to?
Yeah, I have my fingers in many pies, Tasha, but that's again, I do feel, but you know what it was? It was from that breast cancer journey, because I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth. Let me just throw myself into everything. But there is only one me, so I have to be careful that I don't burn out. So what do I do now? I work now at UK Athletics, which you're fully aware of. I'm the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion lead for them. Been there 4 years now. And that's primarily around all about inclusion, and in terms of looking at our values, our behaviours, how we operate as an organisation. But also we're aiming for achieving the equality standard in sport, which is a set of criteria that some NGBs want to achieve. And we're going for the top level, the advanced level. So in simple terms, it's just us holding up a mirror and looking at ourselves and organisation, how we are against that set of criteria. And there will be gaps, but it's identifying that, but at the same time celebrating the good work that we do, because often we don't celebrate our successes as sport because we're always looking for that next goal. But equality and diversity is my thing, and I was given an OBE for the work that I've done in the workplace for that this year. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's an award from the Queen, so Order of the British Empire, which I'm over the moon with. But that's not why I do what I do. I don't do this for rewards or recognition. I just try and make a difference in everything that I do.
Absolutely. And like you said, for those people who don't know, that is a big thing. To get that award from the Queen, like, it's massive. See, they don't just give them out to any guy at the chip shop. It's like a huge honor. Were you surprised when you got it, or did you know it was coming, or was it totally surprised?
No idea whatsoever. That was a good curveball, I must admit. I was actually on the phone because it was during the pandemic. I was notified, and I was on the phone on WhatsApp with my sister, just talking general. And an email came in. I was like, oh, this email's come in, blah, blah, blah. Started to read it. I was like, oh my gosh. I burst into tears. My sister was going, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I'm like, I couldn't even speak, which is really rare. We were both crying like complete idiots on the phone. But yeah, it was an absolute surprise. And it came at the right time because everyone's been going through a tough time with this pandemic and, you know, fed up of the four walls. And it was just nice. It was just such a nice lift to start the new year.
And where did the email come from? Was it from the Queen herself? Was it like queenie@gmail.com? Or...
Well, that's the other thing. Then reality kicked in and I was like, hold on a minute, this might be a fraud. This might be a hoax. I need to check this out. So it came from the Cabinet Office, and I rang them up and I said, I've received this email. And they're like, yes. So it's about an OBE. Yes. I said, is it really for me? Yes. I'm like, yeah, exactly. So yeah, then I could really breathe, because I was really panicking, thinking there's me getting excited and it's not even real. So yeah, it's definitely real.
The next email might be, send us $3 million for your for your
Could you imagine?
I've been crying your heart out with your
sister.
I've
been crying. Oh, how embarrassing.
I mean, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad, it was real and more than well deserved. Like, if anyone deserves it, it's definitely you. Now, speaking of what you got the award for, inclusion, equality, diversity, you're also doing that, like you said, for the federation. So my question for you is, like, I had, I remember an athlete telling me that they were not allowed to be on the relay team. They were told they couldn't be on the relay team because then there would be too many black athletes. They needed 2 whites and 2 blacks. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of unintelligent people out there who say things like that, right? So I know firsthand what it means and how detrimental inequality, because even though that athlete was the athlete who should have, on paper, on performance, should have been on that team, they weren't for that reason. In your own experience, why is diversity, why is inclusion, why is equality, why is it an important thing that you feel so strongly about, that you now even work in the federation to support that cause?
Definitely. So prior to joining UK Athletics, I worked at EDF Energy, and ED&I was huge, and it's a big organisation in itself with many different employee networks. So that was when I was thrown into, or catapulted into, understanding what ED&I meant. But in all honesty, Tasha, we live and breathe it as athletes without even realising it. We're surrounded by diversity on a day-to-day basis. The whole relay team is all about inclusion. The equality from an athletics perspective, yes, there's male and female. Yes, there's so many different disciplines. We travel the world, all of that. But there are some things that need to be addressed, and you've just given one of those examples. So when this role came up, I was the first, and probably one of the first NGBs to actually have this role in place specifically for an individual to drive that agenda. I was absolutely clear from the outset that this cannot be a tick box exercise. It's got to be meaningful, and we've got to do what we say and say what we do, without a doubt. So having that buy-in from leadership was absolutely key, because I could be doing this work until I'm blue in the face, but if we're not living and breathing it as a federation, it's not going to work. And that's really peeling back the skin of the organisation and looking at the behaviours of individuals who would have said something like what you've just told me, and say, actually, that's not acceptable. Whoever is best at that moment in time deserves to be on that team, whether they're green, purple, red, whatever, they deserve to be on that team. So we've really had to dig deep and have those open and sometimes uncomfortable conversations amongst ourselves and be clear, because some people don't even, I'm not saying that everyone doesn't realise what they're saying is wrong and offensive, but that realisation is such an eye-opener. Sometimes you think, oh my gosh, when you explain the impact of what they've said has had on that other individual, they're like, oh, okay, and they're checking and challenging themselves, and that's the thing for me coming into this organisation. It is having those honest conversations and challenging bad behaviours. This is not acceptable. Don't get me wrong, we still got a long way to go. I am not the ED&I police by no means. However, if you can start small, eventually it will have that ripple effect and have a positive outcome.
Amazing, fantastic mission. Now, you've achieved so much as a young athlete, so much as a senior athlete. You've achieved so much outside of your sports already. I mean, it's just amazing. If you were like on your last day of life and you look back across your life, if you fulfill whatever it is, because I'm sure, knowing Donna, there's even more that you want to do, right? If you fulfill your life's mission, if you complete everything that you want to complete, looking back, what would have been accomplished in your life?
Wow, that is a question and a half. You know what? I get asked that question. You know what? If I have made a positive impact on the next generation in terms of being confident, being motivated, being inspired so that they can reach their full potential, that is it for me. And I do mentor young people, I give advice both formally and informally. And if I look back and see them grow and flourish and progress, that I believe they can, then, you know, what more can I ask for? But one of my goals was definitely to retire and be in the Caribbean on my veranda, rocking away by the time I'm 50, and my time is running out. So I'm desperate to be able to retire so I can put my feet up. But I know it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But I'm working damn hard to get there.
You're not wired for it. See, the thing about retiring, Donna, is that you actually have to stop setting goals of that nature, but you can't.
I think so. So I think so
you should start shooting for pseudo retirement or for semi-retirement or something like that. It has the word retirement, but it means you're still doing what you do.
Gosh,
you dang well know already that as soon as you finish this thing that you're doing now, you're going to think of something else to do.
Something else. I know, and I know this. This is the scary thing. I say this, but I know that sounds beautiful to be in the Caribbean with a cocktail, just rocking away. That's just wonderful. But I know that's not me. I have to be realistic. That's not me. I'd be bored within 5 minutes.
Exactly. So my advice to you, get a bit of sand, chuck it in the backyard, buy yourself a fake palm tree and a hammock and set it all up in the backyard, get some martinis and the apple martini going, and that's as close to Jamaican retirement.
That's it. That is it, isn't it? I've got to be realistic here. I've got to embrace that. Oh gosh.
I love it. Now, Donna, you know, honestly, it was a joy to compete alongside you, to look up to you, to compete with you. It's a joy to watch everything that you do outside of the sport. You're someone I inspire to be like in terms of the way that you work in the community and help people in the community. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to chat with us today. Now, if anyone wants to connect with an OBE extraordinaire, right? Maybe they want to bring you on, have you talk to their students, have you talk in corporate settings or whatever, or support their causes. How do people connect with you, see what you're up to, or, you know, just follow you online, even if they just want to follow your story?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn at Donna Legs with a Z. Same with Instagram, same with Twitter. And if you really need my email, I can share that with you, Tasha, offline if anyone contacts you. But yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. I am in the process of sorting my website out, so that's taken a while, but I will eventually get there.
Absolutely. Well, Donna, I honestly, you and I could talk to you forever. You're just genuinely like, no jokes here, because you know me, I just say it how it is. It's such a joy. Like, I really appreciate you. I think you're amazing.
A pleasure.
And it's been so great to have you on. And by the way, guys, I know she's looking all professional, but she's got that little blankie on her lap right now and a cup of tea.
See, that's why I need to be in the Caribbean, because I can't do this cold weather.
So I'm going to let Donna get back to her cup of tea and blankie for the rest of the evening.
You know me too well, Tasha.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, my lovely. Love chatting to you.
Likewise. Bye, honey.
See you.
Donna is such a stand-up individual. Like, she is this way. Like, there's no act there. There's no pretense. She literally cares. She's always cared. She's always been the individual that you see. This is not an act. I mean, she's just a really stellar, just kind, just considerate, just compassionate, thoughtful human being. She is someone who, if she's in your life, you've won. So I just really enjoy talking to her, and I really hope that you really got that really came across through everything that she said today. What an amazing journey. You know, we go through some really trying times, and she went through some trying times, but she's now using that as a platform to again be who she is and that's someone who helps others. So I hope you're inspired to be all that you can be and to be of service in the ways that you can through her story. So check her out, connect with her, and follow her story. I'm sure the book is not finished being written yet, so follow her and really keep up with everything she's got going. Such a deserved OB. I can't say enough. So anyway, I truly enjoyed that. Looking forward to seeing more of what she gets up to. You know what to do. Like, share, follow, because of course, like I always say, there's more to this than just the interviews. It's a movement really to help athletes before, during, and after their careers, because many suffer, many go into depression, many become suicidal for all types of reasons. It's not as easy as it looks, so we want to support that. You can find out more about how to do that, or how you can get involved, or just what's going on at www.globalsportschannel.com and www.loveathletes.com. That's all from me for today. Ciao for now.